There is an alternative to Orton-Gillingham. A lot of educators, providers, therapists, you name it, tout the benefits of Orton-Gillingham. And truth be told, it was an amazing first approach to teaching reading. We all know that a structured literacy approach is the way to go. A phonics approach is the way to go for kiddos. Services for struggling readers need to be structured, systematic, explicit, multisensory, all the things. And Orton-Gillingham has been around for about 100 years, which is why it's so popular. But that's also part of its problem. 100 years ago, we didn't have the brain imaging techniques that we do today. With all of those advances that we've experienced in the last 100 years, we've learned a whole lot more about how the brain learns to read. With that research, other structured literacy, phonics-based approaches have been developed. They are speech-to-print methods. In contrast, there are print-to-speech and speech-to-print approaches. Orton-Gillingham is a print-to-speech approach. It starts with the letters, it shows kids what sounds are represented by those letters, and then it gives them a series of rules to help them decode or dissect words to figure out what they say. That sounds good, makes sense, but what's happening is you're starting with the child's weakness. You're starting with a bunch of squiggly lines or circles or sticks on paper or screens that really at this point doesn't mean much to kiddos who are struggling. However, there's another way. Linguistic phonics or speech to print or sounds first approaches teaches similar information but in a different order. Instead, we start with the speech sound. Those same speech sounds kiddos have been listening to since the day they were born. Sounds that they've been using and organizing since they started to babble and speak, hopefully around their first birthday, or for their first words around their first birthday. It starts with their strength. It starts with a speech sound. It starts with something the brain is beautifully designed to process. And then we present all the different ways those sounds can be represented in letters. What happens when we take a sounds first approach is the entire process gets streamlined. It gets simplified. We no longer have 5,000 rules for how to dissect a word. We simply know that words are composed of sounds and syllables. Well, the sounds come together to form syllables. If we stretch out or sound out or tap out a word, we can begin to hear those individual sounds. We know the different ways the sound can be spelled, and there are a few rules, but the rules are limited to those that are actually followed most of the time. It is a simpler, more efficient way to teach phonics in a structured and multisensory way. In my practice, I've seen kiddos who had been through years and years of Orton-Gillingham-based programs start to catch up. They started to close the gap because all of a sudden there was, number one, a much larger emphasis and a much more integrated emphasis on phonological processing, which is an underlying skill that supports all reading and spelling skills. It was a system that made a lot more sense. It was more manageable in terms of their attention, memory, and other executive function resources. It was just simpler and faster and easier.